Now that's significant. The Market Research Podcast.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on this latest episode of Now That's Significant, a market research podcast. This is your host, Michael Howard, the Head of Marketing at InfoTools. Today, we're joined by Idil Cakim, Senior Vice President, Head of Research and Insights at Audacy, a company that champions audio everywhere, on every device. Over the course of her 20-year career, Idil has devised marketing and communication strategies for Fortune 500 companies and non-profit organizations. She's the author of the book Implementing Word-of-Mouth Marketing, Online Strategies to Identify Influencers, Craft Stories, and Draw Customers. It's Wiley 2010, as well as numerous industry briefs and articles online, communications, etc. Idil currently serves on the Ad Council's research committee as well. Thanks for joining us on the show, Idil.
You're quite welcome.
So, Idil, what's the most significant thing you're going to tell us today, which we'll unpack throughout the episode?
Well, we just conducted some new research that uncovered how the media landscape is shifting, and specifically how audio's role has moved to the very heart of our daily lives. We discovered that audio has moved from background to the foreground, and it is an essential piece of consumers' rituals for almost 40% of US adults. It is a ritual in itself that pushes other activities around in the day and has become central to people's lives.
Very cool. Sounds very interesting, and I can't wait to hear more during our discussion. So to start out, can you tell us a bit more about Audacy and perhaps your areas of expertise?
Sure. Audacy is a leading multi-platform audio content and entertainment company. We engage 200 million plus consumers every month through our over-the-air stations, streaming channels, as well as our vast podcast network. What makes us special is that deep connection between the local communities that we serve and our content. Personally, I think what led me to Audacy is that overlap between the thought leadership, the research, and the sales communication aspect of the job. And it always requires me to sort of keep an eye on the horizon, keep an eye on the future. I remember the tagline back when I applied for the job was, "We're building the future of audio." And I said, well, that's the company for me. It sounds very interesting.
Very cool. So you do a lot of research to help build understanding around the audio landscape and consumer audiences. As you mentioned earlier, one of your recent studies examined what you're calling audio rituals.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us more about what spurred this research?
Sure. Well, we're having this discussion as a larger group of marketing and sales communications professionals within the company, and we really said, gosh, we're up against time, aren't we? I mean, it's not really we're up against a certain competitor or another type of media company. Yes, I mean, that's a given, but we really are up against people's times. We want a higher share of people's times. And another thing that we had been noticing is that, especially during COVID, people had increased their time with audio, and they were keeping doing so. So that got us into thinking of how do people spend their time in their daily lives? What kind of rituals do they bring audio into? We didn't expect to find audio becoming a ritual in itself, but we just wanted to understand how people spent quality time with audio and where they took their audio to. So we sought to conduct this really in-depth research, looking at both qualitative and quantitative ways of measuring this, and holistically, at home, out of home, when people take audio into their professional lives or keep it for their personal preferences. So study evaluated the ways in which audiences navigated this listening time and the types of rituals they built around it. So the study was designed to, first and foremost, to get these audio listeners' time and passion points and how they programmed audio rituals into their what we call personal prime time. So perhaps prime time is best known as the time when everybody logs in or everybody listens to something or views something between 3 and 7 p.m. in the afternoon or 7 to 9 p.m. in the evening. But really, your personal prime time might be your morning run, your late evening time when everyone has gone to bed and you finally have some alone time to listen to that podcast. So we just wanted to contextualize that and see how, if at all, audio had become a prime activity rather than a companion during these rituals. And what kind of trade-offs were people making? So where is this time coming from? Are people stealing moments, if you will? Are they, and we found out, for instance, that people were sitting in the driveway longer or were pretending to drive somewhere, but go on off the route somewhere just to have a little bit more time for their podcast, for their favorite station, for their favorite songs. With their media sources. So people were sending their kids off to play dates so that they could focus more on audio. So all these things came off as trade-offs or preferences over other media. Audio also, we were interested in seeing how people used audio differently than other media. And audio turns out is a motivator, an energizer, a place they come to learn and advance themselves. Whereas, feeling guilty about sitting on the couch and being immobile and watching content that is perhaps not that helpful to their lives. So it was really interesting to uncover all this.
Well, it does sound fairly complex. Can you tell us perhaps a little bit about the methodology you used to uncover insights during the project?
Sure. First, we started actually with a qualitative analysis of social media insights. So we partnered up with a firm called Relative Insights, and they pulled tens of thousands of online comments about how people just freely talked about audio, whether it's radio, streaming, podcast. And that helped us shape a questionnaire. We got the inkling that audio could be a ritual in itself, but we wanted to see what other rituals we wanted to include in there, from cooking to cleaning to exercising to taking care of children, bedtime routines, etc. We got all those ideas listed from this research. And then we did first a survey, and now partnering up with our friends at Alter Agents, another research firm that we often work with. A 15-minute online robust survey of 1,000 plus people, US adults. And then we took the knowledge from the survey and built out an ethnography where people got, over the course of 5 days, these audio consumers got questions from us and video tasks and gave us testimonials about how they consumed audio in their personal lives. And this included, again, a mixed group of radio fans and streaming fans and podcasters. And then we looked to see what still didn't get answered from those ethnographies, because the more you know, the more questions you come up with. And we did a series of in-depth interviews to supplement the study. So it's a very well balanced of qualitative direction leading to quantified trends, and then elaborating on those with more qualitative but very colorful ethnography.
Yeah, wow. It sounds pretty in-depth and quite comprehensive. So what did you find out throughout the study?
The big aha was that 74% of US adults said they set aside time for audio. And that's an intentional way of consuming time and making sure your day does not go by without audio. 40% said they plan their daily activities around audio. So there's a difference between going out for a walk and while you're walking, listening to something that happens to be on the radio or that happens to be, in your podcast list on your phone, versus going out for a walk because your favorite podcast is dropping a new episode. So making sure you clear your schedule and you dedicate your time, whether it's to learn or to entertain or to help someone else out, that's really intentional listening. So that growth-seeking mode emerged from the study. That was very, very interesting. And they also listed specific rituals where they would be interested in hearing from brands. People indicated that they understood that they would hear ads in the process, and that was okay as long as the ads were relevant and relatable. And so actually we spotted many opportunities to come in authentically into the day of the consumer, whether it was a morning walk or children being dropped off at school, or an evening time between parents and kids, or something that they were looking up for work. There were 11 specific activities they listed for us.
Yeah, well, and was there a good correlation between radio listeners and I guess people making the jump to podcast platforms?
I think it's a fairly balanced mix. You know, what's interesting is that it's pretty seamless transition for the consumer. So I think from a media planning and research perspective, we have these check boxes or buckets or different platforms that we have to, almost make sure they sit into a table so that we can plan against it. But people really seamlessly were moving across platforms and across genres, depending on what they wanted to do and where they were going. So you could start very well with a digital radio in the morning, and then carry that from your bedroom to a sound through sound to the smart speaker in your kitchen. Leave the house with your favorite podcast. See, I switched in your ears. Plug that into your dashboard, and then drive to work. Continue listening that at work, but then switch over to some favorite music station when you're exercising during lunchtime, because we all do that.
Yeah.
But it was like this seamless DJing almost going on during the day across genres and platforms.
Because I guess we've historically we've jumped in the car in the morning, and what do you do when you're in the car? You listen to the radio, and some people listen to music, some people to the talk show type news programs as well. So specifically in the when COVID happened, like, you removed that particular aspect as people were working from home. So clearly they've replaced it with other means.
I mean, radio seeped in fact, people increased their time with radio and audio content, I should say. So we're not beholden to the car. Of course, in-car listening is a significant chunk of time and amount of audio consumption. But really, audio has become mobile, and it is the one medium that can move with you to any other activity.
That's right. And it doesn't take up too much data as well.
Right.
Far less in video. So we know the media landscape is shifting dramatically, and the research you did definitely spoke to that trend. How can the insights you discovered help advertisers and marketers make decisions to better reach their target audiences?
Number one, we have to really understand the personas and the shifts between the personas as well. So understand your audience and the many facets of their personality, of their personas, their tasks, their requirements in the day. Someone who's a mom can also be an employee, can also be someone who's interested in exercising and outdoors, can also be a movie buff. So depending on the time and the mindset, they would be open to different types of messages. I think first understanding the audience in totality, and then addressing the activity in that context would really help brands get closer to their targets. And then the next thing is to move away, not so much scrap it, but move away from the notion that there's only morning time and midday and an evening time when you can reach consumers. No, we're reaching consumers in different moments that matter to them. So it could be when you are listening to news intently because that's how you start your morning. So it could be that morning coffee time. It could be that you are looking to become more financially savvy and you're going to have a different mindset and a different type of hat on. It could be, which would be maybe in the afternoon when you've done quite a bit of work and you're looking for more personal development. It could be that you've done all your work and you've spent time with your family and you're looking to truly listen to that true crime story so that you can fall asleep. So that's a whole other setting. So being aware of that setting and those not missing out on those fine moments and that would otherwise be lost in a typical plan. I think that's what came out of the study.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating media challenge then, isn't it? So being able to understand not just the type of content that the person's listening to, but what context they're actually in order to serve them with the relevant messaging, etc.
Absolutely. And relevance.
Yes.
I think you hit it on the nail when you say that. Yeah.
Yeah. So how can people find out more about this research?
Well, we are posting it on audacyinc.com. So audacy.com is our consumer-facing website, but for our business fellows, audacyinc.com, where we have a insights articles section where we publish repeatedly from this study and other studies that we conduct. We publish weekly. There's a wonderful state of audio guide that we publish twice a year. And the latest edition is dedicated to this research. It's also available on audacyinc.com, and you can go there and download it.
Nice. Okay, if we just get out the old crystal ball, I like to say, what's next for the world of audio? Are there any future trends that you're keeping an eye on, maybe exploring in the future? I mean, perhaps even audio's place in the metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, audio can seep into any platform. So we are looking into metaverse branding tactics. It could be metaverse, it could be another background, it could be another setting. Truthfully, a couple things that pop up. One is a request from our clients more and more is to better understand sonic branding. And a recent other study that we did showed the power of sound in creating resonance and engagement and using brand anthems, brand logos with sound, and how that can actually create tremendous recall and relevance for our brand. So digging into sonic branding as a creative tool, that's what you're going to see from us or hear from us in the near future. And we're definitely keeping a close eye on connected car trends. What kinds of challenges consumers are currently facing? What will the future dashboard look like? What will the role of voice be in the future car, where people may want to just come in and command the dashboard rather than hold the steering wheel with one hand and touch the screen with the other hand. So those kinds of user experiences are what we're looking into.
Very cool. So yes, lots happening in the space. So it has been great to see a lot of brands pick up audio as well. You're starting to see quite a bit more in the B2B space from audio, and I'm assuming that will start pushing into the B2C enterprises as well. So
I think consumers, I mean, they're showing us just how the many ways audio can be brought into their daily lives. You should have heard in the ethnographies the enthusiasm with which people talked about their audio, because we asked them to imagine a day without audio, and people were gasping, saying, I could not do that. My run would be over in 5 minutes. That was my favorite line.
Yeah, funny. Okay, so if I can recap what we've talked about today, the rise in popularity of audio in today's society, including how it's helped change the media landscape, but it's also become somewhat of a ritual for consumers as well. So not wanting to leave the house without being able to listen to their favorite shows or whatnot. So Idil gave us an overview of both her impressive career and insights, as well as the work Audacy is doing, which includes engaging over 200 million people each month. That's very impressive. As part of the conversation around consumer audio rituals, Idil gave some perspectives into one study they carried out with some fascinating behavioral insights around that to which we're listening. So two of the big findings from this, their quant, ethno, and IDI research, was that 74% of respondents set time aside for listening to audio in the various forms it comes. And the other finding being some of the ways which brands can improve their ad effectiveness and authenticity in these channels. With one particular ways of better reaching consumers is understanding the 11 specific moments that consumers are most engaged with the audio consumption. So trying to be relevant, contextualize messaging, etc. for each of those moments. And finally, Idil gave some insight into what's next for the world of audio, what she's particularly passionate about. So talked about the sonic branding and also what it means for connected car experiences as well. So thank you. I guess that covers it. Anything else that I missed, Idil?
No, I think you did a wonderful job. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
That's quite all right. And so just reiterating, if anyone was interested in finding out more about the research that Audacy did, so audacyinc.com. And I'll also post it in the show notes as well. So be sure to check those out too. So thank you very much for joining us, Idil.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And thanks to those who have listened to the show as well. If you have liked what you've heard, feel free to subscribe to the podcast, share it with others, and leave a review on your platform as well. Thanks for listening to Now That's Significant.